whatever you could do to get something.
Babysitting. You know, kids,
going.
you can't find kids. My parents are back in Saline, and you can't find kids to do anything. You know, you need some help raking leaves, yard work. It's like,
mow my grass? No, I'm busy playing. No, my dad gives me money. What do I need yours for?
Right.
Yep,
it's really
bad
sad.
like that. I hear that a lot.
You can't find any help younger kids to do anything.
Yep. So,
as many people, McDonald's was my first real job, other than, you know, the babysitting and stuff like that. Was my first where you had a paycheck, and I learned about FICA and who are these people that take all my money out of. Who are these people? Where's all my money going?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Why don't I have? I'm making this.
Wait a minute. Exactly.
I'm supposed to be getting this.
I'm
much
counting.
money.
I'm
Wait
good
a
at
minute.
math. This is not the amount of money I'm supposed to be receiving. Who are these people, and where's my money going? But my goal in my earlier years was always I wanted to be a psychologist.
And
I always wanted to, you know, and I had a very good, psychology professor who said, you got to get out of this. I thought, what? What are you talking about? I'm a A student in this class. It's like, you will end up taking all of your patients home to live with you. And he was right.
Yeah,
he was right.
Yep.
He was right. Looking back, it was not the right career path for me. But I was I was kind of insulted. But so that was the end of my.
So you were overqualified for helping people.
Well, his point was I would not be able to separate myself from, and it was probably good advice on his part.
So, besides McDonald's, what was your next real job?
I managed the Clark station in Saline. And actually, I had those two jobs at the same time. I would get up at 5 o'clock, go down to the Clark station. I don't know if you know where that was, but now that's all vacant land. I would take a giant wooden stick in the back of the building, and I would measure the gas tanks.
The depth of the gas tanks, yes. That is
now, these days, your parents wouldn't let you do that because you would be robbed and all kinds of things. I was close to home, but and at that point I might have had an apartment because I had an apartment early too. I always had that.
Did you siphon gas for your cars?
Of course not.
Oh.
I didn't become a rebel till my 20s, so yeah, this was like 16,
That's
17.
That's what my brothers did at the gas station.
16, 17 years old. No, I was not into that kind of behavior at that point, but it was a hard job. I mean, you can picture a 16-year-old Linda measuring gas.
And you were managing it.
I didn't. I wouldn't say I was a manager. Let me rephrase that. I was probably the assistant. Was I even the assistant? I don't know. Okay. And I had some crazy people that I worked for that I won't get into that.
Were you ever threatened?
No.
Well, that's good.
No. In those days, you just didn't even
think about it.
Yep. You know, probably the.
So after that,
early 80s. Well, after that, I had a home and office cleaning business that I started with my mom and my sister, and we did that for 20 years.
You met some friends of ours in that.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, I think so
that was a good 20 years of my life, which was good and bad. Physically bad, hard on the body, but good for the entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly.
Met a lot of great people.
Did you, I'm going to say, you learned a lot about how business works then, obviously.
In the end of it, yeah. In the beginning part, it was just all labor.
Okay.
And then you think, oh, this would be a great business. Then you realize as a business owner, you know, you hire people to do that and they don't do the work you do. You have a day where people don't show up. So you're out, you know, doing the work that you hired the people to do, realizing now you're making less than you were making when you were just doing it yourself. So it took me about 20 years to put that together, that this is not good. I have a lot of respect for people who start their own businesses because it's not easy.
No, it isn't.
I mean, we wake up half the days here and think, what were we thinking buying a radio station?
Well, we're going to get to that point. What were you thinking buying a radio station?
I don't know. Is Bob Young in the hallway?
Well, I'm thinking, what was I doing buying a newspaper?
That's right. You're not just you got that same entrepreneurial spirit.
All right,
That's a tough word to say.
So you were doing the doing the cleaning service, and then where'd you end up next after that?
That is when I became a realtor, and sadly, I became a realtor shortly after 9/11. Yeah. I pick the times, don't I? Yes. So all of the people in my office, I worked for Edward Servo, said, it's not usually like this. I mean, it was 2 years of nothing. The big agents weren't doing, I mean, it was just the bottom. Well, we were around in that time. It was, I sold one house to someone that I babysat for. Well, I still had the end of the,
Okay.
Wasn't stupid. I still had the end of my cleaning business, but, and it was fun. I learned a lot. I was glad that I did it. It was a big challenge to do. It's not an easy thing to do, as you know from probably your son. But just the timing was horrible.
So what did you do after that?
Hello.
Oh.
That's when I joined
a radio station?
Oh, no, heavens, no. No, that was 2002, 2003 when I met the fabulous Theron and began working with him in radio.
Excellent.
Never thinking that we would own a station together.
So you were working here at the station when you met him?
I actually was helping him with his show on WEMU.
Oh, I remember
he was on for
days.
20 years, yep. As a volunteer mainly at that, the fundraising and all that. And then when he was fired from that station for being a conservative, we've gone over that many times, and moved over to commercial radio, that's when I came into play. So we moved into commercial radio and got into the advertising business side of his show at that point. And
so you followed his career when he came here originally?
Yep. I was here first. No, I came.
Well, that's what I was
actually
wondering.
Came here first.
So you were here first.
We were both over at Cool 107 together from WEMU. He was, and then I helped him at Cool 107 with the advertising and marketing and stuff for the show. And then in radio, every 6 months at least, everybody's fired.
Okay.
And sometimes the format changes. So that happened over at Cool 107, and everybody came here. And that's when the new manager here called and said, you guys have to come here too. And at that point, he was doing the music show. So we said, what are we going to do with, we do a music show. We can't. He said, so what? Do it here Sunday night. So we did. Excellent. And when we got here, I said, why don't you do a talk show? And his words were, he doesn't remember this, but it's true. He said, what would I talk about? So when are you not talking? And that's why people love the music show so much, because it's not just the music. It's him talking about the songs and the artists, which he knows so well.
Oh, Sherry and I listened to Bone Conduction on EMU for the longest time, and then he was off the air. I didn't know where he went.
Nobody knew where it was because they never tell you.
And my friend James Bell told me one day, he says, hey, I listened to Theron on WAAM radio. I said, wait, he's broadcasting again?
Yeah.
And
he's been on the air for 34 years continuously, except for 2 weeks. Isn't that amazing?
Takes a vacation.
No, that was when you got fired.
I know.
But but that's pretty strong broadcasting career.
All right, and then you guys were here for a while.
We were here for a while. I came over first. They wanted a morning show co-host with the guy who was doing the morning show then. They just wanted a female voice on the air. And so I did traffic and weather with him. And Dan Martin was here at that time, too. So Dan has good memories of those early days. As you know, I'm not a morning person, so to be over here at 5 o'clock in the morning and talk about the weather and the traffic. And then the weather guy was, of course, furious because he thought, who is this person coming in? Are you going to take my job? So I got schooled in partly cloudy and partly sunny, the difference literally by being taken outside by the elbow by this punk who my co-host then took
politics.
and my co-host then took and threw him up against the wall and said, don't ever touch her. He was kind of the weather guy, then was news guy. He was good, a great news guy, but he was crazy. But yeah,
great.
So that was our start here at WAAM.
Okay.
And then about a year after that is when Theron came over and started doing the talk show.
And then the station came up for sale, and you guys said
years later. We were here for a few years, and let's see, that was, I don't have all my date stuff together, but basically, let's just say that things were not being well managed here. And when we brought that to the attention of the owner, who was in Dallas at the time, his remedy to that was for me to be the manager.
Okay.
Which I knew nothing about managing a radio station. I knew about having your own business, but I didn't know anything about managing the radio station. And Theron's, because of the things we'd seen in radio, said, well, you don't drink and you don't steal. And those were pretty much my qualifications. And it's true. I mean, if you are an honest person and you try to do the right thing.
So did you watch episodes of reruns of WKRP? Just
I had those in my brain already. No, I knew what not to do. But that was, the whole first year was just learning. I would Google stuff. Google was out then, and I would go online and try to, someone would call and say, we don't have your BMI report for this month. I didn't know what that was. So I would say, oh, I'm sorry, you'll have it by the end of the day.
Learning
As soon as I find out what it is, I would hang up and go find out what it was, and that's how it went the first year. But Tyrone has a business background too, much more so than I do with the accounting and everything. So it was a good team.
I had a friend,
good partnership.
I had a friend years ago who was a pastor, and he got an accounting degree. And I said, well, why'd you get an accounting degree? He said, well, Jesus said, learn to count the cost. And I found out many people don't know how to do that, and they need help.
That's great.
Yeah.
They do. That's great. Yeah. So that's it. That's how we ended up at WAAM.
So you got here, and
then it was after I managed it for a couple years that he came in, the owner came back, and he said, I have good news and bad news. He said, the good news is ratings are up, revenue's up, you're doing a great job. The bad news is now I can put it on the market.
We
successed ourselves into another,
Sorry, I stepped on your line.
And exactly, we did. So I went to him, I think shortly after that, and said, we'd like to buy the station, which he gave me that look like, oh.
Isn't that sweet?
Isn't that sweet? Because he knew what we were making because we worked for him. He kind of gave me the pat on the shoulder and said, that's just great. What's your plan for that? So I don't know, but if you give me enough time, we'll come up with a plan. So he was patient, and we went out and went about finding people who believed in us and would help with the financing. And it took us about 12 months. Went through a lot of people, all the people who are your friends who say, oh, you guys are doing great with WAAM, keep it up. All the big conservative billionaires out there in Ann Arbor land, of which there are a lot. Nope, not a dime. But it was the regular folks, the nice little folks that said, I can give you 10 grand.
You had your own GoFundMe going on.
Exactly, before the GoFundMe was popular. So we did.
Networking.
Yeah. And that was almost 7 years ago.
And if you had a mission statement here, what would be your mission statement?
Save America. I know that's
two
you didn't
words.
think I'd have it that fast, but that's literally what we thought in the beginning. It's like we have to keep this station a conservative voice.
That's right.
Because it wasn't at the time. They had half liberal, crazy liberal shows, half conservative, just
like
hedge
Fox
their
News.
bets. Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And we thought if we don't do this to take this station, it will be completely 100% crazy liberal within a couple months. And it would have been. Yeah. We thought we've got to keep this voice going. We've got to keep the truth. We're all about truth, justice, and the American way, and Thyrone's voice, all of our voices on WAAM, but his in particular, it's too important. I mean, this is a place where you can hear the truth.
Yep.
For better or for worse. So, and of course, always spreading the truth about God as well. So
now, you own a radio station. Mm-hmm. Your mission is,
for better or for worse, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Your mission statement is?
Save America.
Save America.
Save America.
That's
without
right.
the A, yeah.
And along with that mission statement, incorporated in that mission statement, is an emphasis on your Christian service.
Right.
Okay?
I like to tell people we're not a Christian station per se, and that we get all the tax breaks, but just about everybody here is a pretty deep Christian. Not everybody, but most people are. It's a nice environment to work in.
A couple of years ago, I called into your show when you had Drake on as your co-host frequently, and I remarked that your show was a piece of Americana, and that Americana.
I remember that call.
Yeah, and Americana has the culture of America, and part of the culture of America is its religious heritage.
Right.
And so, I like to think that we like to promote that culture in America, one that's conservative in politics, although it also has its liberal. Let's not forget there were liberals, of course, in American history, but they're not who we want to emulate. And we have a caller, but I don't know who it is yet, so we'll just wait on that. And so part of that is our Christian heritage and the promotion of that Christian heritage, because we know historically the founding fathers based this country on their Christian heritage, and so consequently, I believe that there are attacks on those, and of a spiritual nature, on those who have a Christian outlook and a prominent voice in the community. And I think you and Tyrone fill that bill.
Yeah, I'll second that theory.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
believe so.
Some of it you see forthright, right?
Right.
Some of it you don't see forthright, but you see it secondhand.
Right.
Well, I want to move on to this topic of basically attacks both spiritual and, well, the other word is temporal of this earth,
Right.
on you and Theron. And